And okay, so we are back. I welcome you back to this uh, event of programming using PHP. We are learning how to do programming using PHP as a language, and we want to look at some things that we want to accomplish in this lecture or this class or tutorial. We want to look at use of loops, and also look at the other part of decisions, and that's the part that we're going to start with, looking at decisions, looking at how to take decisions. We have already looked at how to work with the decisions in the previous chapter, and we have learned how to use the if statements. Okay, so the if statements, let's check the alphabet. We have actually developed a simple application, and this application we were simply testing the alphabet, whether we have vowels or consonants. So looking at that, let's select that, and we used one page. So this is the page that we looked at, the page that we used. So when you look at this kind of page, we are actually having PHP embedded into HTML, and we developed this. So I'll call upon localhost/alphabet. Okay, so this is the application that we developed, and it was using characters. It was using we kind of wanted, let me just get rid of this. Okay, so the way it functions is that we want to enter a character there and let the system validate. So realize that we have a number of errors, possibly because of okay, let me just put this back. Okay, and then right, so we have a number of errors. We have the way it functions, it tells us whether the character is a consonant or it is a vowel. So if you entered a vowel like A, you verify and tells you, oh, you have entered a vowel, and the character is a vowel. It tells you which character you've entered, and I tells you I is a vowel, and Y, if we enter Y, you validate and it will tell you a consonant. Alright, so we want to take another way. We want to have another way of making this happen. Okay, so instead of having an if statement, we looked at a number of, let me just get this Microsoft Word on. We looked at a number of ways you can work with if statements, and one of them is that you have a potential, you can work with this syntax. This syntax we also looked at last time. We have this as the logical test, so you can have the logical test there, and have the logical test. Then what is supposed to be returned when that logical test is true is normally put under a block of the code. So the beginning part, beginning of the curly braces, marks the beginning of the code that you want to execute, and the end will mark the end of the curly of the code that you want to have. So looking at that, we majorly need to look at the what is returned. So we say this is returned, so it returns if the logical if the logical test is true. Okay, so that is what it is returned. If this logical test is true, then it will execute this. Else we can have the else statement. So else, if it is not true, then the system will actually execute this. So it returns if it returned if the logical test is false. So logical test, if it is false, then you would expect the system to return this, the else statement. Okay, sometimes we said it is possible that you can have a number of tests. Okay, so if at all you have a number of tests that you have to check here and there, you just need to use the if else. That means you're going to check again. Okay, you just need to say if this is not true, then what if it is you do the logical test again, logical test, second logical test. So this is 2, and what is returned is this. Okay, so if the logical test 2 is true, then it has to return that. Okay, that's what we looked at, and in the end we have the default when we have the else. So the else is what it is returned. So returned if logical test and 1 can have logical test 1. This is, we can call this 1 for easy identification. So if logical test 1, this is just to understand the concept. So if logical test 1 and logical test 2 are false. Okay, so if both of these are false, then the system will execute the else block. Okay, so we want to look at how do we summarize this kind of the if logical testing. We can utilize what we call the ternary. Okay, the ternary, and for the ternary, what we need to do is we just need to have the logical test. Then we question ourselves, is this logical test true or not? If it is true, then the system will possibly look at having the display. So we shall have the display there, display if logical test is true. Logical test is true. Logical test is true. Okay, alternatively, okay, the alternative, you put a full colon and then you display if the logical test is false. Alright, so that's what we have. So what you need to know is that we basically have this logical test, and we ask ourselves, is this true or not? If it is true, then it will execute this block. They will execute that part, and once it is false, it will execute the alternative. The alternative is separated by this that is okay. Let me just separate that and make it bold for easy identification. So the two, this marks the starting point. So this is returned if this logical test is true, but if it is not true, then this is returned. Let's implement that. we want to test whether we have a number. If we have a number there and this number has been entered, if it is numeric, and it is true it is numeric, then we want to test, is this number is it less than 10 or more than 10? Is it more than 100? Let's use 10. Okay, so you can have a number like 80 and we n tells you this is greater than 10. All right, so let's see how to implement this. This is greater than 10. All right, so all we want to display this, I'm going to change it and we display it here. So what we want to implement, you realize that that number will be executed at this point. Okay, at that point. So let's get it off, so that even if now I enter a number, you don't see, oops, you have entered numerical values. Okay, if you have entered numerical values, then what happens next? All I need to do is to go where I want this. I want it to be there, and this is where I insert my PHP code. So I want that my PHP code, actually, let me just also explain this. This is called an error suppressor. It suppresses errors that are generated by different scenarios in PHP. For example, if I take this off, you realize that if my system loads again fully, it will generate this error because it is capturing a text that is not yet or posted as yet. The dollar post, it is capturing something from the alt text, the alt text, and it is capturing it, storing it in a variable dollar my data. So for me to be able to suppress it, I just need to put shift and then press number 2, and you have that character. So this character will enable me to suppress this as my page loads. So save changes made, and then I refresh. So the error is now gone. Alright, so what happens next is that I just need to have yes, it is capturing my data from this control. This is the control that has alt text. It is going to capture it, and it is going to capture it using the global variable. Okay, then it will store it in my data. So we want to be able to test, is this data that we have captured here, is it greater than 100 or less than 100? That's what we want to accomplish. Alright, so looking at that, all you need to do is to ask yourself, let's put a logical test. So I'll put dollar shift number 4 to attach the dollar, and then I'll say shift 4 is what we have in my data, the content in my data variable. Is it greater than or equal to 100? Let's just take off this equal. Is it greater than 100? Let's ask ourselves, is it greater than 100? If it is greater than 100, is it greater than 100? If it is greater than 100, then display. Okay, then you simply display what? The number is greater than, oops, sorry, just close this. Number is greater than 100. Okay, alternatively, if it is not greater than 100, then what happens next? We just need to give an alternative by putting a full colon. Then we display again the number the number is less than 100. Okay, so this is a variable that we are testing, and we are testing it against the 100. What you have entered there, is it greater than 100? We're asking ourselves. We're using a ternary decision or condition. So we're asking ourselves, is it greater than 100? If it is greater than 100, then it will display this. The number is greater than 100. But if it is not greater than 100, it is less, then it will put, we shall use the full colon to have the other alternative, which tells us that the number is less than 100. Let's just save changes made, and then we enter something there. Let's put 80, and we verify. Nothing happens. Why? Because we have not yet called it, we have not echoed it out. So we just need to enclose this, the whole of this statement in brackets, and then we store it to some variable, and this variable, you can say it is going to have our displays, and then we assign it to a variable called displays. So this time around we need to go to the next line, and we echo out the displays. So we simply echo dollar displays, okay, and we put a delimiter there. So when we save changes made, Control S, or simply file save, and this time around I just need to enter my 80 and press enter. Oh, it tells me I have an error, unexpected error around echo on line 18. So checking line 18, I have an error there. Dollar displays. Let's check displays. Displays is okay, but I just need to terminate this. There's an error there. I didn't conclude this, so just make sure that you follow the right procedure or the right syntax when you're using your PHP. So I just need to load the file again, and it tells me the number is less than 100 because I've not yet entered anything anyway. So when I enter 50, tells me the number is less than 100. When I enter 100 and tells me the number is greater than 100. Okay, when I enter 70, which is less, this is greater, so it tells me the number is less than 100. So realize that this time around, if I enter a very numerical character and I click, so it tells me the number is greater than 100. We wouldn't love this to happen. Okay, we want the system to give us the right information, the right data. So what do we need to do then? We just need to shift this to take it to a block where it is, where when it tests if it is numeric and it is wrong, it is false, it is not numeric. That means we need to put our code to this section. The character you've entered is a consonant. Okay, so that means it is not but if it is a number, if it is numeric, that means the code should be there because we are dealing with a number. Okay, so we just need to extract this, cut it off, and then we attach it at that point. Alright, so file and then save changes. So this time around, if I enter a C and verify, it tells you don't see anything. It tells you the answer. The character you entered is a consonant. But if I tend to type an I, which is a vowel, it tells me the number is a vowel. But if I enter some figure and I verify, it tells me, oops, you have entered the numerical value and the number is greater than 100. If I entered something like 10, the number is less than 100. So you realize that we are following this syntax. This is the syntax that we need to follow. You just need to have this put under brackets, okay, and you assign it to a variable. So we shall have dollar variable there, variable name, okay, have a variable name there, and you assign it to the variable name, and you terminate. So this is the right syntax that we just need to follow. Alright, it's the right syntax that we need to follow when you are looking at this concept. Okay, then we also need to look at the other option of having a switch. But this time around, I want us to construct another application, and this page is going to validate the month that you were born, possibly. We want to validate if you entered this kind of month, it tells you, I don't know, it tells you something. If you're born in January, if you entered January, it will capture something. Or you were born in the first month, you were born in the second month, something like that. Right? So let's implement that. I'm going to create another application. So just get rid of this, and then I'll select a new file. All right, and then I'll select, because it's going to have still PHP embedded in HTML, I'll save as, and this time I don't want it to an alphabet. Like I said, you just need to know where you installed your XAMPP or your server. So I'll just look out for that. I will just look out for the, mine is installed on D. Just look out for that and check out for where I installed my XAMPP. Oops, not there. There, and then my XAMPP. What am I doing? Logically, by default it will be on logical drive C, and that's where you need to find it. But for now, you just need to locate it where mine, I installed it on E, and in E just locate the folder that has htdocs. Open htdocs and create a folder for your project. Okay, so we have the months. We're going to deal with months. Okay, something to do with months. Then double click to open that folder, then just give it as index, because I just want it to open instantly, and I need to have a file extension of .php, simply because I'm going to attach a PHP code in there. I'm going to use a PHP code in this file that I'm creating. So I just need to click at save. Okay, so I've actually saved this in months. Okay, so let's call our next project, which is localhost / months. Okay, so there's nothing as yet because the file is practically empty. Let's put HTML tags there. HTML, and we shall close our HTML. We enter into HTML and we create the head, and we close the head. We enter the head, and then we close. We attach the title. Validate title. Validate months. Okay, so we shall have a body there. and then we shall possibly have the next at that point. So this is just a skeleton of what we're going to use. HTML, simply HTML. And we want to ask someone out there to be able to give us, okay, being that we are looking at PHP within HTML, we can look at different months. We shall have a display of different months. Okay, so we shall have January or Jan. We shall use possibly these pipes, and then we shall have let's put it on different lines for easy readability. Shall have January, shall have Feb, have January, February, March, have April, have May, have June, oops, June, have July, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, have August, have September, have October, November, have December. Okay, so there we are. These are months, and when I save changes made and I refresh this, you should be able to see those months there. Okay, months on one line. Alright, so there possibly could possibly have these pipes, could have that pipes, and then here, just to enable me view my content pretty nicely. Okay, this being the last month, possibly that, and then we refresh, so shall have this kind of arrangement. Alright, so what do we want to do? We want to be able January, February. Okay, so we want to be able to click at a month and it tells you something, so that's what we want to basically do. So what does this mean? It means that we're going to use a decision. Okay, we're going to have something. Oops, let me just ensure that I close it in there. Okay, just want to create a PHP code in there, and this PHP code is going to look like that. Okay, starting tag and the ending tag of PHP, and we want to be able to carry some content, but we are carrying this content using a get method. Okay, so we shall put a hyperlink, shall say href. This hyperlink is not going to take us anywhere. All right, so href, just you can call the same page, it is okay. Or you just put it like that. Okay, and then say, okay, what is it looking for? It's going to carry an ID, right? An ID of so you put a equal sign of this ID is going to have an ID of 1. right? And then we shall close that there. Let's see whether it carries that one. So when I refresh here, I realize that I basically have this hyperlink, and this hyperlink, when you look around at the bottom there, I basically have one id equal to 1, right? So let's do the same thing for the rest. That's the first month, so there, second month, okay, let's just put them there, right? And then we copy this off, copy, and then we just paste it there. Oops, paste there, and then okay, there. I'm activating these hyperlinks, and this is the second month, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh month, eighth month, eighth, 9, 10, have 11, and then have 12. Okay. Alright, so when I save, all the hyperlinks are activated. So when you look at the bottom there, I basically have dollar and month 2. When I click, you realize that it has carried an ID of 2. When I click, I have an ID of 3, an ID of 4, an ID of 1, right? So I want to base on that to be able to make decisions. Okay, so this time around we shall need to use the switch case. So we shall use switch. What are you checking? We are now checking the ID. Okay, so switch, what are you checking? We are checking the ID. All right, what do we have in ID? Let's look at that and see. Okay, we can look. Let's first look at how best we can do this. Okay, using if state an if statement, and then we shall look at how we can translate, because when you look at the switch is going to summarize, going to have like a summary of the if. So we can have the if. The logical test is if, what do we have, what we have. This time I'm just going to use direct global variable. So if what we have in dollar, we are using a method of get. Okay, because we are not posting anything, we are just passing the information using the URL. Okay, that's why we are using the get method. And when you look at this get method, what do you have, what do you have in get? Okay, what are you checking? You are checking the method, the ID. You are casting something and it is held in the ID. So if the ID is equal to 1, then we shall say you're born in we shall say, we shall echo uh echo you were born, you were born, okay, in the first month. Okay, so in the first month, and then we terminate. Never forget that. So you can have a sequence of if statements, and you can also have a sequence of very many. Let's just copy that, copy that, copy that. Okay, so at times it, so suppose it is equal to 2, then it's the second month, and 3, I would say it is the third month, and 4, you could say it is the 4th month, and 5, you can say it is the 5th month. Okay, so when it's save changes made, because there's nothing, if I take off this and I simply call month, it's going to generate these errors. Okay, so like I said, if you want to suppress these errors because we have not yet clicked anything, these errors will be generated. Just put that. Okay, just put that, and those errors will be suppressed. Okay, so save changes made and refresh. The errors are kind of unexpected if blah 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 on mount. Okay, line 23. Okay, line 23. We don't expect this. All right, so if it has rejected it, we shall possibly need to remove it. Okay, syntax. Okay, delete. All right. So let's just ensure that we click at 1 and undefined index ID. So it is, we are having something if the ID is equal to 0 or is equal to 1, the system tells us we have undefined ID. So even if I cast that, it doesn't detect it. So let's see how best we can fix this. Right, let's see. Let's put a form as form, and that let's just use the method of the form, and then it's going to use the get method. Okay, so right, so right, so have that, and eventually what we need to do is we want to create something. Let's just adjust the code so that it makes sense to the person who is going to view or to use it. Okay, let's just pick up something. So we shall have the select, and we shall actually, even here we shall just use the select, and the select, we just need this to be not necessarily that, but shall just need to have it as an option, and the option will have the value. Okay, we shall have the option, and this option will have the value, and the value will be equal to 1, right? Okay, so that's the first option. So just need to ensure that we have the right output. And this is option. Okay, oops. Okay, so this is month 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so we shall possibly need to alert this person. Shall give him the first option of option 1. Okay, shall just make sure that we tell him to select a month, and then we just need to end. So this is option 0. Value is 0, simply 0. Value will be equated to 0. So we're telling this person, please select a month. So let's see, we are fusing this into more sensible. So we shall have select a month so that someone can easily pick a month, and then the code will have to possibly work. So after picking that month, I would let this person to enter or to submit in a form. So submit type, okay, submit, and the value is we want this person to show, okay, show result, and yeah, click that. So we just need to have a button on our platform so that we select a month and then we show result, okay, and we let the system find a way of how to get this done. So we shall not use this get, we shall use the post method. Okay, so even if I am to use the get, it's also right. So if I'm to do that and I select show, oops, it has, oh, the problem is there. Alright, so if that is the problem, all I need to do is to ensure that let me just get this form done. Just need to get rid of that and then refresh. Okay. Let's just use the post method, trying to ensure that what I have, what I want to accomplish is accomplished the right way. Okay, right, so we basically have that, and right, so this, we want to give it a name, okay, just like a variable. We want to give it a name, and we're giving it a name of we want to give it a name of ID, because we want to get something. Okay, so post. So even if now, let's refresh our page and we select a month, February, so it tells us you were born in second month. That means we selected February. If we selected a month like January, says you are selected in the first month. Oh, we've written first month. Okay, first month. And if we reload, it corrects it. Suppose we had the else statement. Okay, the else, that means it will be the final output. Would simply select it and have the echo uh, please select a month to work to show you the results. Alright, and save changes made. Okay, so if we just leave it like that and it tells you please select a month, okay, and can February tells you okay, you were born in the second month of this. So that's what we need to look at. And when you select this match, okay, so suppose we had else if, okay, so else if, and you would wish to test again, so it would be appearing like else if the post is 0, okay, if it is 0, that's when we are supposed to see, you're supposed to see this, okay, please select a month. Alternatively, we could say else, and then we can say echo you do not have you the months chosen, the month chosen or selected is not available. Save changes, and then when we select a month like December, it tells us the month selected is not available. When we select a month like February, it tells us you have selected the month, okay, the month selected is not available. We want to have this, the else, the month selected is not available. That means possibly we just need to have control over this. The month selected is not available, but we have already selected the right month, which is March, and then it brings in this other, okay, we don't want to see that. So we want to ensure that we have the right displays, okay. Let's first configure that. Let's have it done the right way. So we shall have the if it is a 0, then we shall look at please select the month to show you the result. If it is a 0, that means if we leave it at the select, okay, the value is 0, so it will return this. If it is not any of these ones, then it will have to show you that. Let's try that and we see. Let's save changes made and we refresh. Okay, can at least select February. Oh, the month still comes. So else, okay, so there we are. Want to check the if. Okay, so if it is empty, okay, if we selected empty, then it should return this, okay. So if what is, but this should be making sense. I don't know, maybe you can advise on in the comments. how to basically have it the right way, else the month. Okay, so that means it selects one of these and then it goes to the next. That's weird. Okay, so else okay, can first get rid of this for now and we test the code and see whether it's working well. Save changes. Okay, that one's okay, so it doesn't appear. All right, so else, and when we get rid of this, we select December. It helps. Okay, how about that? Still some issue. Okay, so all I need for now, let's first get rid of that, and we have the switch command, and we see how best we can work with the switch. Okay, so let's now implement the same code, but this time in a better version, having the switch. All right, so what we need to do is to have the switch. The switch, what are you interested in checking? You put what you're interested in checking under the brackets. You are checking the ID. Okay, so after checking the ID, you have to start your block. My block, then you select the case. Suppose this person enters a case. The first case is a 0. Okay, I don't know, let me just check with the syntax. I hope this is the right syntax. So if the first case is a 0, that means if this ID has a 0, then what happens? Then we shall echo, alright, echo select. Okay, echo, you have not selected anything, you have not selected anything. Alright, then we shall break. We need to break. So that means once you break, you're jumping out of the first. It will be as if you have finished the first if statement. So you break out, and then you get into another case. Okay, so we have another case. Let's check this whether it returns. Let me just first get rid of this, and then if I do that, undefined ID. Okay, and if I do that, if I happen to, no, I just need, I think, to use of undefined constant ID, assume ID. Okay, so that means we selected the different select ID, and alright, so let's have that fixed. We have echo, the first the case is 0, and we shall echo you have not selected anything. Okay, and then we break, but we basically have this ID. This, remember, this is a variable. Okay, so that's why it was saying it's undefined, because it is picking it from this, so we just need to make it defined. So we shall need to say a month ID mid. Okay, let it store as something that is picked from the global variable of the post. Okay, the post has something to do with an ID. It's carrying an ID. Okay. Oops. Okay, have that. So that we have the mid there. Okay, it's checking what we have in the mid, and when I select the first, that it says undefined post. So post. Right. Do it again. Alright, now I think it's okay. So I click first month and I click and say you have nothing. You have selected nothing. So this is the way the code works. We have the mid. This is a global variable of PHP I've just declared and initialized, but it is picking data that is casted or from this control. Okay, the control is having it's a select control. It is having the name ID, and this is the name that I've captured and stored it in mid. Then I'm checking mid. Which kind of data do I have in mid? Is that data that I have in mid, is it equivalent to 0? If it is equivalent to a 0, then it will execute this. Alternatively, we can do other checks. So let us select, suppose it is equivalent to 1. So you have selected January. Okay. So let's have this January. Okay. And it is the first month. And it is the first month. Alright. Then we also have this case. We begin another case. Okay. So we shall have a case. If we break, then we shall have another case. I need hope that I'm doing. Shall have another case. Which case? So case of 2, and we shall case of 2. Case of 2. Shall need to open brackets there. Okay, and then we open brackets. Oops. There, so that the two match. Okay, so the case of 2. If the case of 2, what will happen? What will happen is that we shall be able to say you have selected February, and it is it is the second month. Okay, so terminate and then you break. Okay, so let's check and see. Oh, you have not selected. You have selected not selected January. So when you save changes made and then refresh our page. Okay, so shall possibly just need to. Okay, unexpected case. Where is case? On line 35. We have line 35, unexpected case. That means this one should be off. We want to ensure that we follow the right syntax. Unexpected ID 2 on line 27. Line 27. Okay, so because we haven't executed anything, so let's check. February, you have selected February, it's the second month. So you select January, it says you have selected January, it is the first month. Okay, so all you need to do is to ensure that you basically have these, putting them on different lines. So have that, have that. Okay. All right. this is the first month, have that, which is give us the third month. The third month will be not February but March. Have March, and it is the third month. Okay. This is 4. You have April, and it is the 4th month. We have May. This is 5th month. We have 6. We have June. June is the 6th month. Okay. Right. Okay, so we have June, July. Can say month 7. Month 7. We have 8. August. This is month 8. Have 9. Okay. September. So we have month 9. Have October. Have month 10. Have November. And it is month 11. One more case. Have December. And it is month number 12. So once all of these are done, you definitely have the default. The default will possibly prompt, it will be when someone has just ensured that he did not actually select anything. So what is the default then? The default is what we have as default. If nothing happens, then the default will have close to echo. Okay, the echo, you have not entered anything. You have not entered anything. Okay, so let's save changes made and we see. So March, you have March. Okay, tells you have selected March and the 3rd. September, October, you have October, it is month 10. And if we have November, it tells you it's month 11. And suppose we don't select anything, select a month, and then just it tells you you have not selected anything, you have not entered anything. So this, you realize that instead of writing if, this would code would be equivalent to as if we are looking at a scenario of if else if. Okay, so how many if else if statements would you write? So it would be if, the first if, else if, else if, else if else. You just need to ensure that you have what you need to test. Okay, what you need to test, put it next to the switch, So have that parameter of what you need to test. Then the first case is what kind of data is held in this. Okay, that means it is going to check this variable. Which data do you have in there? Is it 1? If it is 1, then it will leave alone all the rest and it will execute only that line. Then it will break out of the decision. If you have entered 7, then it will leave all these the rest of the statements and it will only execute this block. It will check for 7, then it will, if it is 7, then it will jump until it reaches this output, what we need to see, and then it will jump out. So that way you will realize that you are utilizing a nice system, a system of switch case. So we have so far looked at the use of the if statement, if else else statements. Then we have looked at how to use the ternary, where we have the ternary is where we have basically this kind of the logical test, and then question mark, and then what you need to display when something is true, then full colon, then what you need to display when something is not true. Okay, that's the ternary. And then we have also looked at the switch. The switch, when you look at the switch, we basically have what we need to test. Okay, so this is the logical test. Test. Okay, okay, variable to test. Okay, we have the variable to test. So switch, then the variable to test, then because it's a kind of it has the curly braces, and then we have the case, then the value. Okay, this is a variable, meaning the variable will hold the value. So the value that you were checking for, and then you echo. Okay, you return the statement 1. Okay, statement 1, right? Then you break out of the sequence. Okay, and then you execute the same statement. All right, but this time this is value 2 and this is statement number 2. All right, so that way this will give you the syntax, and then you just need to have the default as the default will simply give you the statement, the final statement, in case nothing has been met. Okay, so if you have the final statement, this is the final statement. Alright, so that's the way we operate with the case, the ternary, and then the if. Alright, so with that, I'll love to, unless someone would have a question, or then you can as well put it in a comment. So you post it, you send me a mail, or you send me a comment. My mail is dsarankuma@gmail.com. Okay, that's my email, gmail.com. Please send me anything. I'll be able to figure out how to help out. Okay, in case the code does not work, it's just a matter of ensure that you look out for any default, any fault. It's like a bug in your code, and we have it fixed. Alright, so this takes me to the second objective, using the loop. Okay, we shall look at the first loop, and looping means we are executing the same command over and over and over. So how does it, the loops that we need to look at? We shall look at the first loop. We don't want to have this video, we don't have this session to be too long. It's already too long. We shall just have the for loop. We shall look at the for loop. We shall look at the while loop. We shall also look at the do while loop. Okay, so look at these loops. The one we shall start with is the for loop. What is entailed in the for loop? The for loop, what we have as our syntax, we basically have the variable initialization. Okay, once you have the variable initialization, spelling is weird, initialization, it is normally separated with a semicolon, and then we have the variable test. Okay, so the variable test separated with that, and then we shall have the increment or decrement, right? Then we shall have the code to execute, the statement to execute. So this is the syntax. So what happens is that we shall possibly need to execute PHP language 5 times. Okay, so we shall be instead of writing PHP, we just need to ensure that we have PHP 5 times. We just need to write a simple code that is going to enable us to loop through 5 times. So we shall write something like for, and then for what? For, then we initialize our dollar, possibly I. We initialize it to 0 because loops normally we shall have the starting point when we want to start counting from 0. Okay, so we shall have that, and then we shall have $I. Is it less than, is it less than 0? Is it less than 5? If it is less than 5, then we shall execute the code. Okay, if it is less than 5, then we shall possibly execute the code, and this code will say echo PHP is fun. Okay, PHP is fun. Okay, that's the code we shall execute. PHP is fun, and then after, the system will initialize the variable to 0, and it will check the first iteration or the first output. It will check it has 0. Is 0 less than 5? Yes, then it will execute the first statement, and after executing the first statement, it will go and increment this $0, okay, to 1. It will be just like +1, right? But in programming, instead of having +1 we just need to say ++. Okay, so it will increment it to 1, and it will go and test again. Is 1, is it less than 5? Yes, it will execute the second time. It will increment, which was 1 to become 2. It will execute the second. Is 2 less than 5? Yes, it will execute the third. Go increment, it was 2, now it is 3. Is 3 less than 5? Yes, it executes until it is not any less than 5 anymore. Then it will fall out of the loop. Okay, that's the way the for loop works. So let us get busy with that. Okay, let's get busy with the loop. All right, let's have this go off. All right, so okay, so what we want to do is that we want to continue with our statement there, and Let's actually minimize this a little. Alright, so it's kind of hidden away. Right, so let's write our for loop. So let's just echo loop using the for loop. Okay, using the for loop, save changes made, and then we'll call this page again. Okay, you have undefined e. Alright, so we shall possibly need to suppress this a little. Save changes made, refresh. It goes away. Alright, so you have not entered anything and tells us, okay, let's just break it, break it, break it, break, 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 break. Save changes made, and okay, using loops. Alright, so let's first write our first loop. Our first loop will be for displaying the message 5 times. So we shall say for what, for, then you create a variable, not necessarily I or what, just create something sensible. So you can say the boy, okay, $boy is equal to 0. Then we want to test, is $boy, is it less than 5? That means we want this to execute 5 times. Okay, so you say, okay, if it is $boy, it's 5 times. Let's execute, let's echo I have I love boys, I love playing with boys. Okay, I love boys or baby boys. Okay, I love baby boys, baby boys. Okay, that doesn't mean that I don't love baby girls. Okay, obviously this is just an example. So I love baby boys. So after executing, it's going to go and increment. So for decrement, we shall look at what we mean by that. So boy plus plus, and save changes made, and then when you refresh this, it says I love look, I love this, the first one, second, 5 times. Okay, so realize that I've just written 3 lines of code, 1, 2, 3, and it's going to execute 5 times. It can even execute more than that. Can say, okay, I want it on a new line, so shall possibly break it again and save changes made. So refresh, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So you realize that this time it was 0, became 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if we say it is equal to, save changes made and refresh, so we have the 5th iteration added. Okay, so this is the first one, it's up there, and can have this on in an independent line. Just have this break. Okay, just want to, okay, all right, this is better. So you can have this kind of line, right? So you can as well have the iterations, so that it shows you 1, 2, 3, okay, starting from 0. So we can possibly do that using this. So we shall echo the boy, $boy there, and then because we are adding a variable against the text, we just need to put a concatenation character there, and we leave some space there to have something sensible. Okay, so that we basically have save changes and refresh. So you have first iteration was 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that you know the first iteration is 1, 2, 3. Okay, we can at the same time we can make something like a counter. Okay, so let's create something like a counter. We shall create a counter. Okay, counter A. When we start it at the counter A, it will be at 1. All right, then that means there we shall have this counter A incrementing counter plus plus. All right, so possibly we shall initialize it to 0 there. So once this loop starts, it is incremented to 1. All right, and then this is what we shall display there. Instead of boy, we shall have just a counter. All right, so that once we refresh, we basically have 1, 2, 3, 6 times. All right, the counter is initialized to 0, and once the loop starts, it will increment it to 1. All right, so suppose we say dollar plus plus dollar. Okay, or suppose we say it is initialized to 10. That means it's going to start from 10, 11, 12. Okay, and then save changes, refresh. So we shall have 11 up to 16. But when you'll have plus plus means the value plus 1, right? So suppose we have minus minus. Remember, it is the plus plus is incremental. It is a number that was there already plus 1. But when you have minus minus, it's going to decrement it. It's going to decrease it by 1. So if it is 10, it will start from 9 up to 4. That means 10 minus 1. Initially it's 10, but once the loop starts, it reduces it by 1, which will give us 9. It will go and execute, and the second time it will reduce the 9 minus 1, which will become 8. Okay, so we have what we call pre incremental, and then we have the post incremental. So this is post. Suppose we have plus plus instead of there, and then we have the plus plus here. This is pre. So if we have something that let's first give it a post there, and then we do that. So we have 11, 12, 13, 14. It was initially 10, and that means the 10 is incremented. Okay, takes in 10, then it increments it by 1. But if you have it at the beginning, it's going to first increment it. Okay, so when you refresh, oh, nothing special happens. All right, nothing special happens there. Let's try it and see. Let's try this minus minus, and when we do that, you realize that, oh, there it is, minus minus. Actually the system might end up, okay, it's going to end loop endlessly. Okay, see, system might end up crashing. Okay, so let's just ensure that we stop it and we refresh before the system hangs. This is kind of a little deadly for system to behave like that. Let's just close. Okay, system actually hangs, and you're populating a lot, you're having a lot of data, lots. Let's just stop it. Execute again. Okay, server is trying to figure out what happens next. So the thing is that when you increment it before, it's going to keep on